I recognize that my videos are kind of all over the place. My audio's all messed up, my shots are weird, and my scripts have no direction. I kind of just ramble. I could rant on and on about the things I don't personally like about my videos. I don't even think I'd personally watch them, but I think that's the thing about making things in general, doing anything where you're putting yourself out there, is that they're most likely not going to be good right away. But that's okay. The more that you kind of put in iterations, hopefully, better, little bit by little, they'll get a little bit better. There's been an image that has been trending around recently that I've been seeing a lot on my timelines, and it is I think it's a motivational thing, but it is just make it exist first. You can make it good later. I've seen a lot of VTubers go over this and stuff like that. A lot of artists as well. Some people are just posting their work in progresses and then posting the finals, which isn't necessarily my interpretation of it. My interpretation is that with the iteration, everything gets a little bit better. It's more of a thing about skills rather than a singular product. But however you interpret it is up to you. But I've always resonated with kind of the idea of getting better through this. A very simple quote that I've always followed is, "It's better to be done than to be perfect." That's just generally how I tend to live my life. But, this one is visuals, and I think it sticks with people when at least something regarding that motivation has some kind of very easily graspable image. Everything that you start is most likely going to be a little bit bad in some way. Jake the dog, you got to be bad before you can be good at something.
Dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sort of good at something.
And that's fine. I think that a lot of people let perfectionism kind of kill their creativity, or at least an idea that you have to appear a certain way, appear skilled in certain ways. It's like a perception thing. But that might be me oversimplifying it. But I do think that perfectionism does kill creativity. You have to be a little okay with being bad at things. And I recognize that I am not great at video making. And this isn't to say that it's not important to be self-critical. I think one of the most important things for your personal growth is to be self-critical. But if you're critical nature, or you're being way too perfectionistic for you to even start making things or put yourself out there, then I don't think it's necessarily helpful. You need to be able to be critical while being okay with not being great. All of this is to say that you should start your D&D game. Start it immediately. Start it as soon as you possibly can. You have friends that want to play. You have people who are down to kind of role play or playing combat encounters or do whatever the game that you might want to set up for them is. You probably know people or have a group already, if you're watching D&D content, about they want to play something. You have stories to tell, and maybe that story isn't done yet, but that's the great thing about making kind of like a role-playing world, is the story kind of writes itself as you play. So you don't need to have everything figured out. And also, if you host a game, and say you're already in a game and you want to be the next person to do the game, I'm sure your DM would really enjoy having the break or having the chance for someone else to take the reins for a little bit. Even if it's just hey, I want to host a game that'll last 2 months, something like that. Just do it. If you are afraid that it's going to be bad and that people are going to think differently of you for it, you probably should find new friends or new players anyways. They should be helping you kind of build up your confidence and build up that skill by helping you and being honest and giving you honest feedback when you ask for it, rather than tearing you down. Your campaign does not need to be good to be beloved. I don't think that my stuff is very good, and I think, at least from what they tell me, and I'm trying not to let my own, self-deprecation tell me otherwise, but they tell me that they have a good time playing my game. I love Roland Emmerich movies, 2012, Moonfall, and I think those movies are objective trash, but they're fun and I like them. I don't know how to do voices. I don't know how to do prep. I don't know if it'll be good enough. I don't know if I'm a good storyteller. I don't know enough of the rules. I'm like, I don't really personally care, because one of the things that matters to me is that if you want it, you do it. If you want to run a game, but if something's holding you back, how do you push through that? Make it happen. Okay, so how do you actually set up a game? Because me kind of getting up in your face and telling you I don't care doesn't actually help you make a game. So I'm gonna very quickly describe what I think is important for making any creative task kind of go by as smoothly as possible. I personally think that any creative task that includes writing a D&D campaign or even role-playing every single possible thing or making a character, art, movies, whatever, you need to get excited about something. You need to get really excited about something. Something that it's so worthwhile that you are willing to uplift everything else in the process. Just something, maybe it could be a plot hook for a campaign, anything that brings everything else up. And I know I refer to Tumblr and Twitter posts all the time, but there's one Tumblr post that I really like, or I don't know, maybe it was Twitter, I'll find it. But it was essentially that to be a good artist, you have to make it very clear that there is something very fundamentally wrong with you. As in, there's just something that you're obsessed about. There's something you're very excited about. When I'm drawing, I am very, very excited by certain things. I'm mostly excited by the actual process of illustrating things. That's the thing that I'm very obsessed over. I enjoy the little aspect of getting a little bit better and better each time I draw things. But I am also the kind of person who I like drawing pretty people. I like drawing cool suits of armor. There are things like that that excite me. Obviously, there are things that you had to push through, but I kind of get there through it. Like, I don't necessarily like anatomy is fun. I like anatomy now because I can kind of coincide it with the fact that I want to draw people who are, fit these kind of, or like I want to be able to draw people very well. And so that was something that I had gotten into. But it was something that I was very, very excited about. When making a campaign, the things that I usually get really excited about, or making a campaign or like a one shot or a short story, I get really excited about a specific reveal for players. Like some way I can describe things or a certain set of words. I'm like, oh, I need players to experience this, and I will craft every experience around that one singular moment. The very first campaign I ever ran was just a few years ago, and it was because I had gotten very excited about a specific scene. I tried D&D as a player like I think twice by that point. I had enjoyed it for the most part, but I wasn't sure if I was getting the most juice out of the hobby. I had watched Fantasy High on D20, and I thought maybe I would give it a whirl. I didn't prep it very well. I didn't even really know what I was doing. I barely had stuff on there. I didn't even really know the rules, but I really wanted to describe this moment to other people without it necessarily being a book. I wanted people to experience it. So I got a few friends who were keen on trying D&D for the first time. Some of them still stuck around to this day. And I kind of just latched on to a very, very simple hook that I gave them. The very simple idea is that negative emotions kind of come up physically and manifest physically in a certain land that these characters are going to. Very, very inspired by my kind of time with like World of Warcraft. The Shah was the main inspiration for it. The scene that I had very much latched onto was the very initial scene that I wanted to kind of establish this setting for people. And I had built and crafted everything around this singular moment. So the players go, I called it like a reverse pilgrimage because they were colonizing land that had already been like previously abandoned, and they arrive, they find out the land is tainted, and I had a scene where they meet like a modified, I think it was a shadow stop block. Again, I didn't really know the rules at this point, so I just kind of picked something that sounded thematic, and I didn't know how to make monsters either. And so with this shadow, when they started appearing, how I wanted to describe it, and I was stuck with this description of the party is in a forest and all of a sudden they hear what sounds like thousands of voices ringing in, to the point where there's so many noises it just sounds like kind of static noise. There are voices ringing out every single like kind of like ringing in every direction of their ears, and as these shadows appear, they kind of get closer and closer to each of the players. As they get closer, the sound of that static slowly becomes more like louder and then a little bit more sharp. Like the voices in the background, obviously there's still noise, but it's tuning out almost like you're finding like a radio station. Like you're scrolling through very quickly until you find the right spot and it slows down. And the shadows then begin to replay the exact words that would hurt their characters the most. For example, one of the players was playing a rogue who had who believes that she let her brother die, and it was the shadows basically tuned into her brother. And I don't think that's the most creative thing in the whole world, but I was just very excited to go over that. So they saw that pretty much, I think it was in session 1 or 2, and I built basically the campaign around that concept, because the negativity thing didn't happen first. It was that I wanted to describe that, something about the radio static coming together. That was what excited me to make the whole thing happen. It got me just excited enough to kind of craft the rest of the experience. And even though I didn't really have everything in place at the moment, the more the players played and interacted with what little I had prepped, I made like a small starting like village that the players had helped set up for this adventure, because they're like reclaiming the land. And each time they interacted with things, more and more things kind of began to fall into place, and it just kind of ended up working out. And that was a very short campaign, but it worked. And although it was a really short campaign, I said 2 years ago, that was more than 2 years ago. That was, oh, I guess it was like nearly, it might be coming up on 3 or 4 now. But it was a very short campaign. It was only 25 sessions, because it was my very first one, and I was pacing and everything wasn't necessarily my strong suit. But you know, the players that were there and that are still in my games today, they still very fondly talk about those moments that we had there. I had a moment where one of the players had written that they had killed their father because they found out that they found a ledger from her crime boss saying that the assassination attempt on her own brother was ordered by her father. So she, in her backstory, she had killed her own father. You know, very simple reveal. The big bad comes back, and it's like, you know how easy it is to fake a ledger. And that's something that like they still talk about to this day. Like there's moments and things that he had done, or like that happened in that campaign where one of the players, you know, kidnapped a priest and then walked through town with his body, things like that. They still talk about it. And from there, I use that world as kind of like a framework for all the other campaigns that I've worked on. It's now the world that I have my giant obsidian board with. Everything kind of like pieced together from that. But it wouldn't have started if I was too worried about making it good, because I think when I had told them that I was going to do D&D, I had prepped all of that in maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and I had gotten most of that work done then. It didn't take very long for me to make just enough content to get people going. So I think the concept of, oh, I'm gonna wait until it's all perfect is just a little bit counterproductive. And then I pretty much made the second campaign that I'm in based on a scene that I wanted with the big bad. I had kind of randomly picked the setting of a school campaign, but the main thing that I kind of wanted to get over with all my players was a scene with the big bad at the time. They ended up realizing that she wasn't like the main threat they wanted to deal with at the time, but anyways, getting off topic, I wanted to do a scene, and I've heard people do this, where it was like a bad guy power kills somebody and then revives them kind of as a power move. And so I had this whole scene where the headmistress of the academy that these players are going to meets one-on-one with one of the players, will power word kill them, revive them, and then use modify memory on them to make sure that they kind of forget the whole encounter, but it's just like an above game thing for the whole table. So each of the players, even if it's a little metagamey, know that, hey, this person that we've been kind of suspecting is the danger. And so I had crafted the whole world basically around that, or at least the whole part of that game around that bad guy doing that one thing. But from there, all of my, my shared world has grown quite a bit. My very fresh obsidian is continuing to get filled out a lot more. My skills as a DM, although I'm nowhere near where I want to be, it's getting better. It's something that I am constantly kind of working on, looking new puzzles, looking new monsters, figuring out how things are written, balancing one player who is a paladin versus everyone else who plays mostly for the role play. All those things are things I am learning along the way. But people have stuck with me for a few years now, and I think that's a sign that things are going well, even if I don't personally think that I'm happy with it. So, point of the story is get really excited with something, show the world that you're a little obsessive with a few things, and things might go in a good direction, but you don't need to have all the keys answered out. You just need to answer the things that you find exciting, and then from there, your kind of passion and your joy for certain things, I think, will come clear to your players, to your friends, hopefully. But anyways, start your D&D game. Stop worrying so much about it being good.